This week's battle report is brought to you by the fine craftsmen at Tabletop Armory. Looking to spice up your tables for your favorite wargame? Look no further. Tabletop Armory offers a wide variety of terrain, including new module sets. Want to swap out that spooky graveyard for a forest or tall grass? You totally can, offering plenty of flexibility and replayability on your gaming tables. Find Tabletop Armory on Etsy to access their full catalog and wargaming products. Tables like this one and more will be featured at Nova Open 2023. Come hang out and play games with the tried and true crew in Washington, D.C. this September. Use the discount code below for this month's promo. Hello, and welcome to our first 100-point battle report on Tried and True. Special thank you to our viewers and patrons who support our channel. It's a huge help. Thank you so much. If you enjoy our content, please consider subscribing to the channel and keep up to date on our bat rep and podcast releases. If you would like to support the channel directly, a link to our Patreon can be found in the video description below. Our match today was recorded using the 2023 Steamroller Rules Scenario 6 Recon 2. Premiering for the first time on Tried and True to claim vengeance in the Swamplands is the Army of Storm Legion under the command of Captain Athena DeBarro. Their 100-point list is led by returning community member Rick. Welcome back. It's super exciting to have Storm Legion on the channel, and your models look great. Please discuss your list options going into today's match.
Alright, hi guys, it's Rick. Thanks for having me back. Like we said, I got 100 points of Storm Legion today using Athena. I decided to go ahead and rack the spells for Jackhammer and Snipe today. Just figuring the Jackhammer is going to help me out keep up a good volume of attacks, and having Snipe to make sure that I can still reach out and reach the models that I need to kill before they make it into my lines. Following up on her battle group, I have 3 Corsairs, 2 of them with the Arc Node head, and then 1 of them having a Shield Guard head, followed by all of them having Mag Bolter right arms and Voltaic punching spikes for their left arms. Following up with 3 Strikers. All 3 have the Relentless Charge head. 1 has the makeout of the Electro Bombard and Power Fist, followed by the other 2 having the Voltaic Hammer and Heavy Mag Bolters. They are accompanied by 2 Legionnaire officers to make sure that I can hold up flags as they would present themselves, 2 units of Arcane Mechanics, and a unit of Stormblade Legionnaires with Bannermen, and a full unit of the Tempest Thunderers. The command cards that I took today were Breakthrough, Infiltration, Old Faithful, Power Swell, and Sentry Duty. Pretty heavy ranged bombard list, hoping to snag a couple kills on the approach.
Returning to defend their homeland against Signar's advance is our Gator-loving community member, Gatorman Pete, also known as Pete. He has brought 100 points of Blindwater Conjugation led by the undead dreadbound Maelok. Please share with us your list choices going into today's match.
Hi everyone. So I'm playing Maelok the Dreadbound today. He's one of my favorite casters. I've been playing him for about 10 years now since he came out, but he's changed quite a bit over those years. In Mark III, Maelok would bring between 15 and 20 posse members, but now Gators are FA3, which means I max out at 9 posse, which at 50 and 75 kind of plays like he used to, but at 100 points, we gotta dig deep and find some other strategies with Blindwater. So I'm bringing 3 Ironback Spitters, not 1, not 2, 3 big old turtles. I'm expecting them to do very well into Storm Legion because they have Carapace and the armor-piercing shots that are so prevalent in this army I'm against. They have your armor, but then the Carapace is added after, so it's pretty effective. Of course, I got a Black-Hide Wrestler to give rage to them and make them, a little less pillow-fisted in melee and do a little bit more damage at range. Changed from Mark III to 4. Rage is only +2 now instead of +3, but it works on ranged attacks, and that includes blast damage. I've got a Bone Shrine, because it's an extra Fury. Who doesn't like that? Gatorman Soul Slave, throw in an extra Mortality if you can. The Witch Doctor, for that Death Ride, makes everybody within 5 inches of them get an extra inch of movement if they're undead, which under Maelok is everybody. And then I have Quack and Gub, because not 1 but 2 enlivens a turn is really good, especially when some Spitters have Counterblast and Retaliatory Strike. They walk up, you hit them, they hit you, you hit them, then you walk away. It's not bad. Command cards, I've got Sentry Duty, Power Swell, infiltration, careful reconnaissance, and breakthrough. Pretty standard, nothing too crazy there.
Can Maelok, with an army of turtles and Gatorman posse, repel the advancing Storm Legion and their armor-piercing weapons? Let's get to the table and roll off.
Alright, so here we go. So here I go, kind of explaining what the models are, pointing them out, because these are still relatively new to me and really new to Pete. So we're just kind of going through the whole explanation of the armies, what things can do, kind of making sure we get away from those gotchas, declaring out our terrain, discussing through the whole thing. I remember lots of Pete's models from our last match, so we're okay there. And then we go ahead and get started. I just pulled away the King of the Coin there, because we got ourselves a King of the Coin game going on here. Hoping for that league so we can get in that tournament at Nova.
Oh, yeah.
So, diving straight into the first turn here. Basically, I get to go first, as any Signar would love to do. And we are just running up the board. I'm trying to remind myself and go through the meticulous steps of my accumulator on the heavies for the striker, because I need to make sure to add the focus and then use it while I'm running, or else I'm going to forget, and that's a lot of focus to just lose out on. Again, this turn is all about get up the board, get into position to make my guns super scary. I think everything in my list as far as guns are concerned are 20 inches of threat. The only real exception to that is Athena herself. Her spray is just a range 8. Obviously, under snipe, I can get that to an 11, but didn't feel it to be super relevant to get the snipe on her. So we did go ahead and get that up on the Tempest Thunderers that just moved up there. Even with them moving at that speed 5, they're threatening 20 inches there.
All right, so first time seeing Storm Legion, the other side of the field. Pretty scary, trying to figure out what their threat ranges are, just how much damage they'll be able to crank into me if I go a little too far up. So I've got on my side of the field all these turtles and the posse. I know the turtles are pretty resilient, so I kind of want them in front, but they're turtles, so they're also kind of slow. And combined with going second, that kind of limits how far up the field I can be. So we're trying to find those safe spots. I put Counterblast out on one of my turtles and run him up. Oh no, that's Maelok. I put Death Pact up on Maelok. So Death Pact is Maelok's signature spell. It makes all his warrior models undead and gives them +2 armor. Now, because they're undead, that means that our little witch doctor there is going to be able to use Death Ride and speed everybody up. Now my beasts similarly are undead because of his field marshal, so they get that same little boost. I bring some gators up, put them in a trench, try to keep them somewhat safe. If one gets shot, I'm okay with that. If they get taken off the board, I probably don't want that. Their threat range versus living models is quite a bit because they get those extra 2 inches. So those 13-inch threat combined with Death Ride over there, trying to keep his all his infantry sort of a way where I can't be bothered to learn what they do in a very painful way. And then up here I've got my beasts. I move Bowser up there, one of my turtles. Keep him somewhat safe. Stay out of the charge range of those new infantry models there.
13 inches.
It's quite a bit, and they're weapon masters as too, correct?
It's a distance. No, they are not, but they're still power 12s with Electroleaps, and because of the banner, it can place ionization exactly where I need it, so the Electroleaps are always going to be at least a power 12. So it can get real nasty real fast. And
the Death Pact will protect me a little bit from that, but Gators are so tough because they also have Unyielding, and that don't work on electricity. So we'll see later on what these Electroleaps can do into some heavy infantry. And I'll tell you a little sneak peek now. It doesn't tickle.
It was great for me.
It was definitely fun. I do run my shield guard there. The gator with the flame on his back is my Blindwater. He's an arc node. He has a 3-inch shield guard, as most things are. And little change from Mark III, he used to have to use his Animus to become an arc node. Now he just is an arc node, and his Animus grants telemetry. So if I get him up the board, he can make those mortalities a little more accurate.
It's a way better change for him.
Definitely.
Way better.
I do put Quack and Gub up and put out that double enliven on my turtles, and then bring my last heavy up the rear.
All right, so we're following through with the whole process of dealing with my focus and popping it out there and ensuring all the power-ups are going the right way. And then we go ahead and start with the broken unit. I mean, the unit that fixes broken things.
They're broken inside. It's okay.
The mechanics, they're broken on the inside. That's why they wear a hard exterior shell. They go up and they go ahead and just empower all of my jacks. This mechanic unit is very, very good. Almost, I'm going to say too good.
They are extremely resilient. They're like armor 17 with 5 boxes.
Yeah, they're armor 17 with 5 boxes, defense 12, and they can still run up and fight you. There's Mat 6, power 12, hammers, and they got a spray 4. That's crit, disruption, and electric. It's kind of ridiculous.
They're 3 guys for 4 points, is that correct?
It's 3 guys for 4 points. Yeah, it's kind of.
You could just run them as your main infantry, man.
Oh, I can have 4 units. They're FA4. I've thought about it. Don't test me. So we go ahead and we actually charge up with our Stormblades. We do have an angle, so this is kind of where our foreshadowing was leading to. We were starting to go ahead and roll up against the units here, and we start. Basically, if I remember right, we went from top to bottom as far as like my interpretation of where they are. But it is real fun to watch a sword hit, an Electroleap jump, and then just rinse and repeat. Power 12 Electroleaps are very good, especially since they don't trigger as attacks.
So you do kill one Gator there. He makes his tough roll.
Yes.
So you do have to burn another attack to kill him.
I do burn another attack, but then the Electroleap still would triggers over into the other guy. It still does some
You had 2
damage.
Electroleaps chunk that next guy, and by the time he actually took a charge attack, he was on 2 health.
Yes. Which is kind of like the whole purpose of that whole thing was to just let the leaps bop out there. And then, just following through with these guys. Like, they're only power 12s, but if they get into somebody, they're going to die. The banner making them Mat 7, giving them +1 to their attack rolls, and then also on top of having that ionization there, it's super powerful.
So we do end up with 1 Gator surviving. He's on just a couple HP.
Yeah, I think we left him on 2.
He was in the back, so he only had 1 charge attack on him, which might have even missed, but the Electroleaps did some good damage.
Yeah. So we definitely start getting in here into starting to making sure I stay inside the scenario and try to take out some of your pieces of scenario. If I recall correctly, and I'm going to give it a second for it to actually show up. I dropped a die. That I'm going after your Bone Shrine. Yes, because it was able to because of its extended deployment range and everything, and it being a solo and a thing, it can just sit there on the objective and get you points. And I didn't want you to just, without effort, gain points. So I needed that to go away.
It deploys 9 inches past my normal deployment, and with the 10-inch second player deployment, you can stick it right on most flags.
Yeah, so it was a super strong positioning for that thing, and I didn't want you to have it.
You don't like nice things.
No, I don't. Well, I mean, I like my nice things, but not your nice things. But I think the Corsair moved up there. I think shot at a posse that was in the back. Just trying to get more damage into that infantry that I know is going to charge up into me. Following through again with my... this side here is the Electro Bombard heavy, taking some shots, and didn't do well as far as going after that infantry.
He missed, rolled that blast damage, but it didn't do any damage.
Yeah, so from here, I'm kind of debating on the Thunderers, just starting to make some more shots. Their crit knockdown is decent, but you can't guarantee it and things like that. So I was just debating on if I'm going to have them go ahead and shoot, or if I'm going to have them just kind of get up into your grill and start messing with some stuff. I decided to pause for a moment and get the solo that's hiding there behind the trees to give them desperate pace, because I can use that on small and medium base infantry. So it gives them desperate pace. I do decide to go ahead and get them charged up into your grill and just kind of become a nuisance, because they're still respectable. They're 12-17s with 5 boxes each, and then it's power 12 or 13 on the charge for them. And I'm clicking on my little app here. They're power 12s, Mat 7. It's not terrible. And then they also have dual attack now, so that was an update that had been recently. And it changes a lot of how they kind of handle some stuff, because I can still just go ahead and try to make those attacks into you, even though I'm charging into you. So it kind of gives them a little bit more usefulness, especially since they're 10 points for just the 3 of them. Before, when you couldn't make both attacks within the same activation, they felt kind of overcost. But I think with the addition of the dual attack now, it makes them way more interesting and useful.
Especially for 10 points.
So here... Oh, absolutely. So from here, we're making those attacks just kind of around to where I am. Measuring some distances again, because, again, my threat ranges are just... Yes.
Yes. Whole part.
Yeah, I think everything is within 20 inches of my line, so it's pretty easy for me to go ahead and get wherever I want. Taking some armor-piercing shots into the Gators, sitting there. Pretty resilient defense at the moment because of that crater, but again, I just don't want a whole bunch of Gators necessarily just charging up into me without too much retaliation. Athena activates, and I back her up specifically because I knew the turtles could move up into me and start shooting, but I didn't want them to be able to stand there and just shoot me because Athena's pretty tough on her own. She did lose out on a defense point when the Thunderers got their dual attack, so she's down to 14, which I think is respectable, because having 15-19 after her defensive line or protective line's ability, making her a 15-19 just kind of base, doesn't feel fair per se. But I get a couple open fire shots out there, just kind of willy-nilly shooting out there. I move my heavy back to make sure I still have that armor buff on both of them. And I take a shot into the turtle that's right behind the wall. And silly me forgot about Enliven and made the turtle get closer. So that was not cool.
Right, so that Enliven kind of has me salivating. Now my turtle is close enough to get a charge on his heavy, which, his heavy's sitting at armor 20 right now because it's base to base with another battle group member.
Yes, when they're base to base with any of the battle groups.
So I've got to get a mortality or 2 out on that side. I've definitely got to clear these infantry from that top zone, and I want to free up my turtle down here and possibly take a shot into that side of the field, because I've got all those blasts I would like to get on some of those infantry. And then I've also got these Gators, so we're seeing what's going to happen this turn. I've got a couple goals in mind, and now it's just order of activations. Hell, what do I do? So a couple things have to happen. I do want to get those mortalities out, so I'm seeing, do I use Maelok? Do I use my attachment, the Soul Slave? Do I use both? Do I get 2 mortalities out? I also want to put Rage on my turtle. That +2 damage applies to his ranged attack and his melee. The turtles are sitting at 15 with their bite, and then 13-13 on their fists. So they've got quite a few initials, but they're not hitting all that hard. So he needs that mortality for the -2 on the opponent, and he needs that Rage for the +2. So still rolling dice off 1 on his most powerful attack, but, that's pretty good.
Respectable.
They also changed from Mark III. The turtles gain dual attack, which, actually gives them 4 initials, because even though they don't have pistol, they're rolling a blast attack in melee, so if it misses, that's still a POW 10. It's not a lot, but it is a 4th initial. Alright, so I do pick this turn as my feat turn. So Maelok's feat all undead, including his beast this time, get +2 armor. And everybody's incorporeal on my turn, and that eases up this order of activations a little bit, because I don't have to worry about making space for my support, making space for my beast. They can just kind of move through each other as if they had Tactician. So up top here, I've got that one Gator who's taking his revenge.
I forgot about Take Up, so we fixed that real quick. Also, Maelok did get Mortality out.
Oh yes, he did put that out on that heavy there. I believe I used the Arcane Forces card to get a little extra distance. Alright, now my third squad of Gators, bring it up from the rear. They're going into these infantry. The Gators have 2 attacks each, both POW 13. One's a 1-inch, one is 2-inch. Their weapon and their bite. So they just sort of Mat 7 chew through these guys. Gators used to be Mat 6 with the option to reroll misses. Now they're just Mat 7, nice and easy. Alright, so we move our Soul Slave up. He rolls, gets a nice shot in, lands Mortality on that light. Lucky that I got a good roll there, because I forgot to use Dark Power. Usually he can take a d3 of damage to boost his attack, which he sort of needs, because he is only an Arcane Ability 4. I forgot to do that, but I rolled that hard 9 and hit a 13, so all is well.
Yep.
Alright, so I put out that Rage Animus, get it on my turtle, and then my turtle charges in. So I roll these attacks, and all of my hits roll very, very high. All of my damage roll very, very low. That was a 1-1-2, folks. Another 1. Another miss. Bad damage. in the end, after all of these rolls, I take out almost his entire heavy, but I leave every single system available. Which, Mortality would prevent healing. That would shut down Old Faithful. It would shut down his mechanics. But none of that happened, folks. We just have every system available. Right arm, left arm, cortex, movement. It's all there, and I'm going to have a very dead turtle.
I thought we agreed for the integrity of that turtle. We weren't going to talk about that. I thought we were just going to leave it alone. Because that was bad. It was not
Second
good.
Turtle comes up. He tries to boost a shot and see if he can take out a system. It doesn't pan out for him. I believe he misses, rolls the blast damage, and does like 1 damage in a column where it wouldn't do any good.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, because we were like, you needed a 5 or a 6 to take out
that right arm,
and I think you rolled a 2. Yeah. Yeah, and we started talking about it, and here I show everybody like it's completely fine. There's nothing wrong with it. The bad turtle.
The Gators down here move up. They try to extract my lower turtle there. These mechanics, or these aren't mechanics, but
these are the Thunderers
are pretty strong. They got a bunch of health. They got pretty high armor. So my guy on the left didn't quite kill. We killed the one in the middle. Put a little damage on that guy down there, and that's it. The turtle's not free, so he might have to do some of his own work. We bring Quack and Gub up from the back. I realized that I didn't put my Enliven on the turtle that jumped up front, so he's not going to have a good time. But I'm still able to pop it out. I put it on a couple more of my beasts. Now, Enliven got a lot better in Mark IV. Just because of the nature of free strikes not existing anymore. If something gets damaged, before, they would take the hit, that would trigger Enliven, and then they'd walk away, but take a free strike. And in the current climate, they take a hit, they walk away, end. So twice as good, and he's got 2 of them. Alright, so my turtle uses his 3 initials, kills the last of that infantry, tries to boost a shot, take out this solo no solo on the flag yet.
It's the light.
Yeah. Hits that light.
The shield guard one.
I think he takes a good chunk out of it, but that's the end of his activation.
He takes a decent amount, and then he corrodes the whole thing.
Alright, now I got my Blindwater back here. Trying to decide where do I position my shield guard and which beast do I enliven.
That was definitely a skip where we had a whole bunch of questions, so we had to pause.
Alright, so I bring my beast up because I need a beast in that zone, That's is starting to become very apparent that scenario is going to be a big factor here. You know, he's pretty tough, I'm pretty tough. It's all positioning at this point.
Oh, so real quick, that skip was not from a rules thing. You got a phone call.
Oh, that was it.
And for those of us that know, understand what happened, and we're going to leave it at that.
Long story short, I have a 2-year-old. He was in the bath, and some things happened.
So here we go. I am starting with my heavy over here because of I know that I need to kill this turtle. I believe I was thinking about trying to do it in a way that Athena was just being able to just basically rack out Jackhammer, but my arc node is tied up, so that's not really going to help. Kind of looking on how the whole thing is going. Again, we're just using the mechanics to kind of start things off. 6 inches of Empower is kind of silly. I'm sorry to all the Storm Legion players that I'm going to bash talk these mechanics just a little bit, but they are silly.
I love these models. They're too good, but I love them.
I love them, and I will continue to use them. And again, but I will still speak truth in the gospel of the arcane mechanic. So focus goes out again. No allocation out of my caster because I don't need it. Again, being able to just my heavy being alive over there, and not to mention having a Cortex, was wonderful. Now
at this point, I'm waiting for you to
Pete,
trigger Retaliatory Strike with your Jack and take out a system, but you come in with your 2-inch reach here on your Weapon Master solo, and you actually take out my Mind, so that shuts down Retaliatory. I won't be able to hit with it.
Right, so, and that was just a lucky break. Now, Pete knows what happens here, but because of that hit and everything, I'm triggering Electroleaps. And for all the Storm Legion players that know about the Relentless Charge Head, it is not lightning resistant. So Electroleaps do jump to it. So after mortality and everything, it actually does an additional point of damage, and then we roll the location.
Takes out that right arm.
My other arm.
There it goes.
And so what happened with that, because of mortality, it actually did the additional point of damage to the left and right arm, and so I crippled my own Jack with my solo. So I did an obnoxious amount of damage to that turtle with this solo. However, I did just enough damage to my own heavy that it was now going to be ineffectual. So I had some recalculating had to occur on how this turtle was going to die. Because now I couldn't just losing out on a die of my attacks was not good. So lots of time in the tank realistically to figure out what I was going to do. Was it going to just be the light? I was going to try to do it, doing some boosts, hoping for that armor piercing crit. All of which I basically ended up deciding that that's not going to happen. I'm going to need to get Athena kind of involved, and decided that this is my feat turn. Feeding this turn basically gives me kind of a signs of importance on both sides of the table. Additional die for whenever I make attack rolls or damage rolls. Friendly models drop the lowest die, and then on my opponent's turn, if he's within 12 inches of Athena, he would have to drop the highest die. So it's a really nice feat. Boosting really helps negate it a little bit. And then also any dice fixes like mortality or anything that buffs, boosts, anything like that would help out quite a bit. But it's still a pretty powerful feat. So we start launching random stuff around.
We did have an enliven trigger up there, so a turtle did reposition a little bit.
Yes. Looking at your shield guard there, but I think this is where the bombard kind of starts trying to go after your posse again. And then rolling some pretty big dice onto him, but not quite doing that little bit of damage. Under feet, those Gatormen are obnoxious. Basically being overall +4 armor.
Yeah, they're base 16. Death Pact makes them 18. Feet makes them 20, and if it's melee and yielding, brings them to 22. So it's pretty good.
Yeah, they get really tough. But trying to get those bombards out there, and blast damage. That might have been an armor-piercing shot. No. I think... Did I miss that one? For the bombard?
No, I think you missed, but you still rolled pretty good in the damage.
Well, yeah, because then I boosted the... Because it's still a POW 10 blast damage roll. And I think that was one of the ones that was kind of low on health anyway. So... Lots of reprocessing of thinking of where stuff's going to happen. I'm trying to get the maximum out of my feat. The interesting part with the feat also is that even with my one jack basically losing out its arms, the fact that I can roll 2 dice and always take the highest is still pretty helpful in some scenarios.
You thought you had a miss there until you realized you had a third die.
Right, and you reminded me of the third die and hurt yourself a little bit, but I was like, see, this is what a good opponent's for. This is why we...
I know my turtle's dead. It doesn't matter what I do or don't say.
Yeah, so definitely tried to still get this turtle beat up pretty good. I basically needed... because I still had my Cortex, so I could boost off of the focus that I had.
We see a 3-dice drop one. That ain't bad on POW 18.
No, not at all. Lots of talking about how the dice math's going to work itself out. Now my light's kind of jumping into the game. We're looking for some crits. We're looking for whatever I can get. But then we're able to actually boost out the damage enough to get them dead with the light. And then my light goes ahead, and because of dual attack, we're able to go ahead and get the armor-piercing shot off. Measuring distances for... I started to measure that distance because I was talking about how I can just run my heavies at you and then jackhammer to death under feet, but then you politely reminded me that Athena has already gone because she feated. Just because Maelok was right there, behind that middle shed there. So we do go ahead and get that heavy gunshot to get that one posse off of that one zone over there. I was trying to capitalize up there a little bit just because of being able to try to drain out that zone quite a bit, since you only had the 3 models in it at the moment. Oh no, 4 models, because there's 3 posse up there. Checking my line of sight for the one gun over there. I can't see my solo. It's crazy.
Okay. There is a solo on that flag, we assure you.
Yeah. See, he's hiding behind the flag, or hiding behind the forest right now, and then at some point we do get him up there on that flag, but he's kind of hiding at the moment because that forest is on fire.
We didn't mention at the beginning, but this is a very similar map to our first match between Barnabas and Signar. So we've got a little village on fire from the aftermath of that battle. Oh, that was blast damage we were measuring there.
Yeah, that was the blast damage from over there because of my bombard actually this turn shot your objective and did 11 points of damage to it. Just because it was out there and I could.
Pretty good for blast damage.
Yes. Well, the bombard hit that.
Oh yeah, that was.
And we were looking at the blast damage about for your little solo dude hiding back there. I started breaking things as my irreparable game states would go in every one of my battle reports or games in general. And then there we go. So that I do move through that burning forest with my solo to get on the objective there. He does catch on fire because of that little scenario there. But he needed to be there because I need to try to keep myself in this scenario game. I love her feat. It's so wonderful. Just rolling so many dice.
Size importance is so... It feels so good. It skews that bell curve in such a way that you can pretty reliably hit certain numbers with very little math saying you won't.
Alright, so then my main heavy here is just kind of ranging out to see kind of what we're going to shoot at, what we're looking at. He's kind of basically Athena's bodyguard at this point. because of that +2 armor. It's just too good for her. It keeps her relatively safe. And then he was able to snipe distance in and get that spell slave dead.
Alright, so here we go at Maelok again. So I've lost a turtle, I've lost some posse. I am at this point up on scenario by a point or two, though. So I am going to try to keep that advantage. This bottom zone, I know I'm not clearing all that stuff there, but I've got I've got a heavy in the back, so he can probably hold that down. So my goal this turn is to clear out this top zone, try to get something in it, maybe go for an objective. I have this turtle up here, and he can get on that heavy I failed to kill before, or he can go for that objective. So we'll see how that pans out. But my other tool on that top side is I've got a full Gatorman posse, and they do have a line of sight behind that light, between that and the forest. There is a line where he can get on that heavy. So I think that's going to be my plan. I take 3 posse. You know, they don't hit that hard, but 6 POW 13s will do some stuff to an armor 18, armor 20.
Oh, absolutely.
So here we go, moving the forest, finding that landing zone.
Yep. We also made sure to put the reminder out that if the Jack didn't die, I did have Old Faithful, so it would be able to get kind of repaired and set back up. And we had that conversation about making sure, or talking about mortality potentially as well.
Yeah, if mortality wasn't up, he can heal it. Last turn he couldn't. This turn he absolutely can. So I bring my my Blackhide Wrestler up. He casts Rage, puts it on my turtle there.
Yep. There goes Enliven. Get that bad boy up
Enliven
there.
on my 2 heavies. Got to keep that Wrestler safe and got to keep that turtle safe. Witch Doctor comes up. He stands behind the hut. He gives everybody that death ride. And in go the Gators. So we get some nice charge attacks.
They're okay.
And it does end up being enough. We end up taking this heavy down.
It feels great having them under that feat, though. So, like, making that dice math, like, that much stranger.
Yeah, they got pretty lucky. I don't think they missed more than 1 attack. And the damage ended up breaking armor almost every time.
Yeah. So, they did rather well.
They did get a hit or 2 into that light. Do a little bit of damage. Doesn't quite take it out, though. And now with that taken care of, we... oh, no, they do take it out. I think they take it out to the box. Here comes that last attack.
I believe, if I remember right, yes, they did. They took it out exactly at the box because of your other dice were really well. So they put in work.
MVPs of the game there. Just those three white gators.
Oh, absolutely.
Taking out 2 jacks. And here comes the turtle.
Yeah, he's going after my objective to clear that out.
Auto hits, gets a POW 17 in. He's got a couple 15s out there. That first attack didn't go all that well, but the follow-ups and a couple buys, he manages to take this objective down.
Oh, absolutely. I'll say even with the feat, it wasn't going to be that big of a deal because of Rage being up. But it did take him a lot.
Yeah, it took him 3 initials and I think 3 buys. Which is their Fury cap. You know, the Turtles, as much as I like to talk about how good they are only Fury 3. Alright, in go the Gators.
Here, this was one of my favorite moments.
So they're trying to take this solo out. I want to get you off that flag. And it doesn't go so well for them. There's a lot of missing. There's more missing. And there's more missing. And that's all 4 attacks.
MVP?
Shuffle my heavy around.
Yep, but he survived. I was pleasantly surprised.
Oh, they get you back on that side.
Oh, yeah. The other side, they were perfectly fine. They did work over there. They got 2 of my jacks.
Alright, so my second turtle here. Trying to take out this other solo, because that Weapon Master attack, oh boy.
It didn't
It
tickle.
didn't. And we get a little bit of blast damage. I was hoping to take out some mechanics, and this is when I learned just how resilient the mechanics are. So that POW 8 blast damage, I was thinking might kill some single wound infantry, but they are not single wound.
I was about to say single wound infantry, sure, all day. These things, no.
Yeah, I do corrode them though.
Yes. So we go ahead and start going through dealing with my corrosions, the power-ups, etc. Getting everything back into a reparable game state. And I think the mechanics, they all kept their corrosion. They stayed. I think at this point we also remember that there was a piece of blast damage because of the solo, or against the objective, because you had to use your gun to kill it.
Didn't do anything though.
So then we had the blast damage. Yeah, so we had to make sure that the corrosion and everything was out and appropriate because of that. And then my mechanics, they kept the corrosion. And then I decided to kind of show off that these guys can still absolutely go fight. So those mechanics at the top there, they decided to charge into the posse. Primarily because they're still pretty resilient. I got double ones on that first attack. They're resilient enough that I can use them as a scenario presence. And then just kind of jump into that posse. And, I'm sure the posse can deal with them, but I just need to make sure to keep stuff up and in there. At this point, I start thinking about where some stuff's going to start happening. My heavy goes up and starts to whale some attacks on this turtle. And if I recall correctly, this is about the time that I finally looked back over at my clock again.
7 minutes and 20 seconds.
And I noticed the 7 minutes and 20 seconds that I have left, and I'm like, uh-oh.
This heavy triggers Enliven too.
Again, yeah, and then forgetting about the heavy trigger, or the Enliven trigger, is apparently my downfall of fighting against Gators. Because I once again forgot that Enliven would trigger, which would then reposition him away from me so that I wouldn't be able to get my attacks as I had intended. So, following through with that, I just took another armor-piercing shot kind of randomly out there to just try to keep up with the volume of attacks. I go ahead with my solo Weapon Master and start making attack. He gets his attack over on the Gator here, trying to clear out some of the presence that's here, and he rolls double ones. So my dice start, at this point, the universe is balancing out the turtle from earlier in the game, and my dice starts to crap out a little bit. From here, we go ahead and make sure that my mechanics give on the bottom side here, that they go ahead and give the focus back out. Again, making sure to keep up with everybody. My heavy here is the intention of the whole thing is I am trying to use my melee attacks to kill these Gators, because it seems okay to try to deal with them, but again, there goes the 1-1-2 on my damage roll, so I'm not hurting these Gators, so I jump into trying to see if there's something else that I can do as far as how some of my attacks or things would go. And I'm just not scraping the paint of these
You get him down
Gators
to 1
as
HP.
I intended.
It's good, but it's not good enough.
Right, but it's not good enough. So the full intention in that particular moment was that I was going to be able to use my the open fist that I have, because it has the little repulsor blast in there, to push out the beast in the back, so that hopefully it's enough distance that he's out of that zone. I wasn't sure if he would be out completely, but it was a better option than shooting a carapace model.
I believe your plan was to get the one pushback and then open fire for a second one, the other beast, right?
Yes, and then my open fire was going to do the second one, but now I had to start using my lights to start dealing with these other posse. And again, right now I'm at the point where I keep looking back and forth at the clock, and I'm just trying to rush and push quickly to try to get through some of this stuff. I'm able to clear out the two posse. And then Athena goes ahead and goes through the activation to show off kind of what my intention was. I hit to roll damage. I think I did like maybe 1 or 2 because of Carapace, and then push him out of that objective there. But then, as we can see here, at this point, I have run out of time, and we just kind of finished the talk of the game.
Well, this is our big Storm Legion premiere. I'm sure you both have a ton to talk about. This is a bunch of firsts for our channel. First 100-point game, first Mark IV army. So thank you guys so much for coming back and doing our part 2 of Battle in the Swamps. So I'm just going to turn it over to you guys because I'm sure you have a lot to talk about.
It was pretty scary seeing the Storm Legion on the other side of that field. They managed to beat them back and defend their homeland, but those Gators took some pretty heavy shots. Rick, I know you ended up clocking yourself, but if you had more practice with this army, how do you think the rest of this game would have gone for you?
It's interesting. So I think there's definitely some things within the Storm Legion that, like, now that I'm getting some more reps in with the games and things like that, I'm starting to feel like there's different ways to approach some of these guys. Like Athena feels like a Kara Sloan. Like, she just wants all the guns. She has open fire. She does all this stuff for them. But once things kind of start to get close to me, she kind of runs out of that game. Like, the big difference between them is, like, in like Mark III with Kara Sloan, she had Minutemen. So even if you got up into her grill and up into her face, she still had lots of like point blank or like very close slug guns on the Minutemen and all those kinds of things. So she could still kind of play a ranged game in melee. But it feels a little less so with the Storm Legion at the moment, especially since yeah, I can still like use my guns, but then not having the pistol on the some of the bigger guns, it makes them less effective and things like that. But like you said, my big thing for this whole game was my reps as far as how much I've played Storm Legion. It's not strong enough yet, and time is definitely a killer when you're still learning a new faction. And the interactions of here to there, like my defensive line and making sure that I'm base to base here or there, or remembering certain rules like you can't charging Athena, all this kinds of stuff, and it's killing my time. But I think having those few more reps and understanding the army just a little bit better, I think I can start churning out some really good, interesting fights for myself. Some of the being the kind of first Storm Legion report for us, at least, or at least new Mark IV, it's interesting to see the differences between like Signar in general. Like, I know, so my lights are basically hunters for the same overall cost as like first army. So like the hunters are 8 points. My one light jack, the Corsair, with an arc node is only 9.
How do you feel about having that flexibility on your jacks? Is it pretty nice to change that loadout from
It's super interesting. It adds a lot of diversity. So, like, an example. So, like, sure, I only have one jack as far as like a chassis is concerned, but I mean, within like how combinations work, it's like 16 different combinations that I can get. I don't know what the math is, but it's a lot. It's like having the equivalent of like all these different jacks, because I have 4 different heads, 4 different left arms, and 4 different right arms. And then any combination of that is a different jack, and they all play entirely different. Like if I went to play Wolf, those lights are actually going to have melee attacks, as far as like maybe like a storm thrower or just like the broadsword and things like that. And those guys I can get them up to like power 18 on those lights because of like Wolf and stuff. But having those different combinations is just pretty ridiculous. It gives a lot more flexibility to Storm Legion than, say, like if I was playing First Army. Just because it's like, okay, I know I need to plug this in or plug that in, or I know that I'm going to get shot at a lot because of my current meta, so I'm going to have a whole bunch of shield guards, or I know that I'm going to need to make sure to reach out my spells a lot more, so I can just change a head or 2 into arc nodes. So as far as like list building is concerned, it's way more interesting because it's finding out what is what and what's going to work well with who and the combinations of that.
I think there's also something to be said about just having a flexibility of the point cost on a model. We all list build, so I'm sure we're all aware that each army has kind of like their own breakpoints, like how many of each thing you can get in and still have room for all your support, and where your smaller solos and your 1 points and your 2 points tend to fit in a nice pretty package. And being able to take a model and just be like, well, I'll just make it a little more expensive or a little cheaper at the cost of these, maybe less impactful abilities. That's got to be very nice in the building process.
Oh yeah, because especially if like you can find ways to like, okay, I need to fit one more model in, and all I have to do is just change my arc node head into a shield guard head, and I have one additional point. Things like that. It's hugely flexible instead of just saying, okay, I'm losing a jack because I don't have the points for this. Just being able to swap out a head, an arm, or something to get that last point. So like maybe get a solo or fit that last unit attachment, or maybe instead of having Thunderer, or instead of having like Stormblades, I can have Thunderers instead, like things like that.
Now,
it's super interesting.
Here's the real quiz, Rick. Do you yet know which head is which, just visually?
I would have to say no. I know which. Now I do know which one the arc node head is. I got that one. That one's good because that's the one that's like basically just a metal face and there's nothing to it. But if you put a Storm Legion Stormblade in my face and said, "Which head is that?" You won't see me again.
All right, man. Well, thanks for the game. It was a real pleasure to have this rematch, another rumble in the swamp, and hopefully someday we'll have a third. Yeah.
Oh no, we're going to have a third because Wolf is coming and he's going to go ahead.
We each got one more caster, and unfortunately, mine is Caliban.
Well, I have another one coming up because Calder's coming out, and we'll see how that goes. But Wolf's on his way.
Thank you for watching. If you would like to check out some additional content, including the original video and audio of our battle reports to support the channel, please click our Patreon link in the video description below. If there are any factions, warcasters, or warlocks you would like to see on the channel, please let us know in the comments. And as always, see you on the next tried and true battle report.